Hey, tonight we're exploring the soft lies your memory tells you while you sleep. You lie still, and the night presses gently against the windows. Outside, the world settles into hush. Inside your head, something quiet begins to turn. It's not thought exactly, more like the drifting smoke of old recollections, their shapes shifting even as you try to hold them still. You feel them just behind your eyes, soft outlines, like chalk on rain-damp pavement. Some of these memories feel true, real, rooted, but in the dark, beneath your waking attention, your mind has always been more sculptor than historian. The things you remember aren't just stories from your past. They're reflections, polished in sleep, retold for comfort, or reshaped to survive. You probably won't survive this world unchanged, but that's the point. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy quiet stories like this. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. Maybe you're the only one awake in your city. Maybe not. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You begin to drift through the shape of a memory, not a specific one, not quite. It's more like a flavor or a texture. There's an image, something about a table, maybe ... voices, a smell like citrus or warm paper. You don't know when it happened, but you're sure it did. And somehow that certainty feels enough. Memory does this. It doesn't ask permission to revise the past. It simply whispers, and you follow. The voice it uses sounds like yours. Familiar, calm, maybe a little protective. Neuroscientists call this reconstructive memory. The idea that each time you remember something, you're not playing back a perfect recording. You're reassembling it, like a jigsaw puzzle with worn edges and missing pieces. And to keep the picture whole, your brain fills in what's missing, sometimes with guesses, sometimes with dreams. One quietly fascinating fact: a 2008 study found that when people were shown a photo doctored to make it look like they had ridden in a hot air balloon as a child, even though they never had, about half of them developed full, vivid memories of the event. They could describe the sky, the feeling in their stomach, even the color of the basket. Their brains had told a gentle lie to keep the story feeling real. That's the thing. Your mind isn't trying to deceive you in a cruel way. It's trying to keep you whole. Sometimes the truth isn't just complicated. It's heavy, disjointed, unfinished. Memory steps in, rearranges the mess, and leaves you something smoother to hold in sleep. This process becomes even more fluid. Your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for logic, inhibition, and fact-checking, quiets down at night. It steps aside, letting the hippocampus and the amygdala play. These are the architects of your memories and your emotions. And without the logical part interfering, they mingle freely, reweaving things in ways you'd never allow while awake. This pair is why, in a dream, someone can look like your sister, but sound like your teacher, and feel like someone you once loved but can't name anymore. You accept it. You always do. There's something eerie about how willing we are to believe these false narratives, but also something deeply human. In ancient times, memory was considered sacred. In Greek mythology, Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory, was the mother of the muses. Memory, they believed, was the wellspring of art, of story, of meaning itself. But even then, they knew memory wasn't just about remembering. It was about shaping. Even now, researchers still debate whether memory is meant to preserve truth or simply to keep us sane. What if the primary role of memory isn't to recall what happened, but to help us continue living? What if survival demands forgetting just enough? As you drift deeper into night, you pass familiar feelings that no longer wear names, shadows of gestures, faces that feel important but don't quite land. This is your mind dusting off old dreams, deciding which ones to fold into story and which to let slip into fog. Imagine a hallway in your mind, lined with mirrors, not clear ones. These are warped just slightly, like the ones in old carnival tents. They reflect things as they almost were, not to trick you, but to hold the version of you who needed something gentler than truth. Tonight, you're walking slowly through that hall. You recognize fragments, a voice, a scent, the way someone looked at you in a dream you had when you were 13. The way you laughed, though you don't remember why. Some memories are like that. You don't remember the joke, but you still feel the echo of joy. Not everything you recall is a lie, but many are softened, rephrased, gently rewritten while you weren't looking. And that's okay. There's no shame in that. You're not a machine. You are a living story. And stories evolve. Let that thought wrap around you as you sink further into quiet. Let your mind hold the soft truths and the soft lies without needing to sort them. Not now, not tonight. You walk further inward now, not down a path exactly, but through a hush, the kind of hush that doesn't come from silence, but from something being gently put away. Imagine opening a drawer lined with velvet and placing something fragile inside, a memory, perhaps, or something even softer, the feeling of a memory. That's what your brain does each night, while you sleep, quietly, delicately, without needing your permission. Inside your sleeping brain, a pair of curious collaborators begins their work. The hippocampus and the neocortex, two regions that, in waking life, rarely hold your attention, become central players in this twilight theater. One quietly fascinating fact: your hippocampus is the short-term keeper of memory. It gathers experience like notes scribbled quickly in a diary. But during sleep, especially in slow-wave sleep, it begins whispering those notes to the neocortex, which slowly translates them into something more permanent, something more like a story. Not every note makes it. Some are discarded, some are rewritten, others are embellished, and none of this is malicious. Your brain, like a tired editor, simply wants the narrative to make sense, wants you to keep going. This process is invisible to you, but it happens every night. Even now, it's happening in your sleeping brain, Something is being refiled, smoothed, labeled, tucked away for later. Scientists call this memory consolidation, but the term feels too mechanical for what it is. What you're really experiencing is curation. Your brain isn't a camera. It's more like a museum. And museums don't display everything. They choose, they arrange, they light certain things softly and let others rest in shadow. You might wonder, then, how many of your memories have been edited? How many aren't quite true, but have been softened, stylized, turned into something more bearable? There's a theory called the reconsolidation window, a brief period, just after a memory is recalled, during which it becomes mutable. Think of it as opening a saved file on your computer. The moment you look at it again, you have the chance to change it, even by accident. And if you save it that way, the new version overwrites the old in sleep. Your brain opens files you didn't ask it to. And sometimes, they're quietly edited before you even know they were touched. Maybe you remembered a friend being kinder than they were. Maybe a moment of embarrassment was dulled just enough to stop stinging. Maybe you forgot something on purpose, and your brain helped you along. It's strange, isn't it? To think that your own mind may be protecting you, not just from the world, but from the sharp corners of your own past. There's something eerie about it, but also something kind. Still, researchers wonder if our minds are constantly editing our stories while we sleep. How much of who we are is shaped by events that never quite happened that way? Where does the line blur between self-deception and self-preservation? History offers clues. In 1901, a woman named Elizabeth Loftus began experimenting with memory distortion. She discovered that even subtle suggestions, like a single word, change in a question, could reshape how people remembered an event. But in sleep, those suggestions come from inside you. They're not spoken aloud. They rise like mist. Imagine, for a moment, that your memories live in a small house by a lake. Some rooms are locked, others are flooded with sunlight. Some have windows painted shut. Each night, as you sleep, the house rearranges itself a little. A chair moves, a photo disappears. A room that used to be upstairs is now underground. When you wake, the house feels familiar, but something is different, and you can't quite say what. You've lived like this for years. You'll live like this again tomorrow. There's comfort in knowing you don't have to hold everything exactly right, that some parts of you can change in the dark, not out of fear, but to heal. And if your memory bends a few things while you're not looking, that's okay too. The truth is, no one remembers perfectly. Memory is not a carbon copy. It's a story we tell ourselves every day. And sometimes, when we sleep, we retell it with a little more grace. So tonight, let your hippocampus whisper softly to your cortex. Let them do their slow, quiet work. Let the editors shuffle their pages in peace. You won't notice what's been changed. You're not meant to. You're simply meant to wake up in a story that still fits. You don't always know which memories are real, but that doesn't seem to bother you, especially at night. In fact, there's a kind of comfort in the not knowing, a warmth in letting your mind wrap you in stories it has lovingly patched together. You remember riding your bike along a winding path at dusk. You can see the trees, hear the gravel under your tires. But were you wearing that red jacket, or did your brain borrow it from another afternoon? Was it really your cousin beside you, or a friend your mind substituted in later? These details blur, and still the memory feels true. There's a quiet wonder in that, in how easily your brain weaves narratives out of loose threads, and how rarely you question them. One quietly fascinating fact: in a series of studies by psychologist Julia Shaw, participants were encouraged to recall emotional childhood events that never actually occurred, such as getting lost in a mall or committing a small crime. Remarkably, over 70% of them developed detailed, confident recollections of these events. They even added sensory details: the lights, the smells, the panic or the thrill. The memories were vivid, but they weren't real. Your brain is not trying to trick you. It's trying to make meaning. And sometimes meaning matters more than accuracy. This is especially true in moments of uncertainty, when details are missing, when your past has gaps. Your mind fills them in like a storybook illustrated. The picture doesn't have to be factually correct. It just has to feel like it fits. And during sleep, when your defenses are low and your logic is quiet, the stories flow freely. A blur of moments you never lived, but might believe anyway. Have you ever dreamed about an argument you never had, unwoken up feeling the weight of it, or remembered a kindness from someone you've barely met and carried it like a gift? These are false memories, but they still shape you, still affect how you feel, how you respond, how you navigate the waking world. In a way, your mind is creating a soft version of reality, one designed not to trick, but to soothe. Memory becomes a bomb, not a book, place to rest, not a courtroom. You may wonder how this happens, how a brain wired for survival allows in so much fiction. The answer lies in imagination. Your capacity to imagine is deeply tied to your ability to remember. In fact, the brain regions used to recall past events are almost identical to those used to construct imagined futures and, intriguingly, fabricated memories. Neuroscientist Daniel Schachter refers to this as the constructive episodic simulation hypothesis. In essence, the same mental machinery lets you remember, daydream, and misremember. It's all part of the same system, flexible, creative, and not always precise. But maybe precision isn't the point. Maybe your brain isn't a vault. Maybe it's more like a theater, dimly lit and echoing. The same actors play different roles each night. The costumes are reused. Scenes bleed into one another. And you, half dreaming in the back row, believe the performance every time. There's something eerie in this, of course, but also something tender. Because even the false memories serve a purpose. They stitch together your identity, pad your narrative, smooth over trauma, create warmth where maybe there was once cold. Some researchers now believe that memory has an emotional utility more than a historical one. It keeps you feeling okay, feeling coherent, feeling like you. Imagine your mind as a soft snowfall, layering over the rough edges of your past. Beneath the surface, the sharp lines remain, but above, there's quiet, gentle illusion. A hush you don't need to excavate. It, not tonight, just let it fall. Let the stories that never happened settle alongside the ones that did. They are all yours now, real or imagined, lived or gifted. And as you drift deeper, feel how your mind wraps these stories around you like a blanket, not to deceive you, but to cradle you, to carry you softly into the next dream. You find yourself drifting through scenes that don't quite belong to you. Not entirely. A swing set at the edge of a field. A conversation that never happened, but feels emotionally true. Someone's hand reaching out, not a face you know, but a feeling you remember. This is the landscape of dreams. And within it, your brain does something extraordinary. It plays, not in the way children play with toys, but in a more abstract sense. Your mind becomes a sandbox, and the grains it sifts through are your memories. Some sharp, some faded, some not even yours in the traditional sense. More like feelings someone once gave you, passed along without words. Each night, during REM sleep, your brain lights up with activity, almost as if you were awake. The limbic system, the part responsible for emotion, becomes hyperactive. The prefrontal cortex, the part that enforces logic and timelines, goes quiet. And in this moment, your memories are freed from the rules of waking life. One quietly fascinating fact: during REM sleep, the brain reactivates patterns of neural activity from your day, but in unusual combinations. Scientists at MIT discovered that rats dreaming after running mazes showed hippocampal activity that repeated the same firing patterns from earlier, but rearranged, remixed, like a DJ sampling real events into new tracks. Your brain does this, too. You just don't realize it's happening. It might borrow the setting of your grandmother's kitchen, overlay it with the voice of your college roommate, and place you barefoot on a train heading nowhere. And still, it feels real. It always feels real while you're in it. This strange theater is not nonsense. It's creative integration. It's your brain trying to understand your world, and more importantly, your place in it. Sometimes it repeats a memory to strengthen it. Other times, it reshapes one to make it easier to hold. And occasionally, it invents entirely new experiences, using the raw materials of your past. The dream is not a lie. It's a rehearsal. Researchers have found that dreaming can help people solve problems, process emotional events, and even prepare for future interactions. It's as if the brain is test driving reality, running endless what-ifs, making you more resilient without waking you. There's a kind of eerie genius in that. But it raises a quiet question. If your dreams are built from memory, fragments, pieces, cut and rearranged, how much of your dream self is based on truth? and how much is invention? No one knows for sure. You may dream of holding a conversation with someone you haven't thought about in years. You may hear them say something they never said, and yet wake up with a feeling that changes your day. Emotionally, it matters. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real memories and those created in dreams. Not on an emotional level, which means some of your most meaningful moments might be fiction, and that's okay. Your dream life is part of your lived experience, even if it happened behind closed eyes. You might be tempted to dig for meaning, to analyze, decode, deconstruct. But tonight isn't for answers. Tonight is for the gentle mystery. Port, letting your mind wander without the burden of truth. There's an old idea from Jungian psychology that the dream world isn't a reflection of the waking world, but its own place, with its own logic, its own language. A second home, shaped by memory, but not bound by it. Maybe you've lived there longer than you realize. Imagine walking barefoot through a dream field, grass made of sound, sky made of memory, to reach out and touch a door frame. It's the one from your childhood home, but the house behind it is not the same. Still, you step inside. Still, it welcomes you. This is what your mind does with memory while you sleep. It builds spaces, from pieces, and lets you walk through them as if they've always been there. You don't need to understand it. You don't even need to remember it in the morning. Just know that your mind is working gently, silently, in the background, reshaping the past, rehearsing the future, blending what was with what could have been. So, let it play, let it build. The soft lies and small truths and almosts and maybes. Let your dreams draw maps in places no one else has seen. They are yours, and tonight they are enough. You lie still, the world around you dissolving into the soft hush of thought unspoken. Your body rests, but your mind continues, quietly assembling the pieces of your life into something that fits inside you. And here's the curious thing. Some of the stories your memory tells you, especially while you sleep, were never entirely true. Bet they were never meant to be. They were meant to help you feel, to help you continue. You remember the letter you never received, the conversation that never truly happened, the apology that was implied but not spoken. And somehow, in your memory, these things feel ... complete. That's not deception. That's design. One quietly fascinating fact. Studies have shown that false memories can have therapeutic effects. In some cases, people who recall comforting, though inaccurate, childhood moments report improved mood and reduced anxiety. The brain's subtle reshaping of the past can soothe, even if the details don't align with reality. Think of it like emotional autocorrection, not to erase the hard truths, but to gently blur their sharpest edges. This is the comfort of the almost true. Memory is deeply emotional. Two people can experience the same event and remember it completely differently. Not because one is wrong, but because each person's emotional landscape reshaped the moment, like water flowing around stones. And your memory, especially at night, knows what you need to feel safe. Maybe it gives you a little more kindness than you actually received. Maybe it lets you believe someone stayed a little longer. Maybe it erases the part where you felt alone or scared or out of place. Quiet grace in this forgetting. Be soft mercy. Your brain has evolved not just to record, but to protect. And in doing so, it sometimes sacrifices truth for gentleness, accuracy for peace. There's a term in neuroscience called memory distortion bias. It means that over time, your recollections lean toward stories that are easier to live with. The heartbreak becomes a lesson. The failure becomes a redirection. The moment of fear fades, leaving only the strength you found afterward. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's biochemical. Your emotional brain, especially the amygdala, filters how memories are stored. Painful moments might be burned in vividly, but others are softened, filed gently, like stones, smoothed by water, and sometimes they're entirely rewritten, not as betrayal, but as gift. There's something eerie about that, how the mind decides, quietly and without fanfare, what parts of the past to leave intact. And yet, it's also comforting, because what remains often says more about who you are now than what actually happened then. Have you ever stumbled across an old photograph, one that evokes a moment you thought you remembered perfectly, only to realize it doesn't match your mental image at all? The background was different. The person beside you wasn't there. Your smile was smaller than you remembered. It's unsettling, but it doesn't take the memory away, because memory is not the photograph. It's the feeling the photograph brings back. Tonight, as you drift further, your mind replays these feelings. Maybe it shows you your childhood home, but with the windows glowing a little warmer. Maybe it brings back someone who left too soon, and lets them stay just long enough to say what was never said. There's no harm in that. The past doesn't change, but your relationship to it does. And in sleep, you are allowed to renegotiate those terms. Sometimes, the soft lies your memory tells you are healing. They're the bridge between truth and hope, between pain and meaning. You don't need to know which parts are fabricated. You only need to feel which parts matter. So let your memory do its quiet, kind work. Let it cradle you in its edited truths. Let it tell you the story not of what happened, but of what your heart needed to hear. That poor story is yours, too. Poor, you drift deeper now, and the room around you grows softer, less defined. Your body feels weightless, suspended in something thicker than air, something like memory itself. Not the sharp kind that startles you awake, but the slow kind, like a photograph curling at the edges. This is the space where forgetting begins. Not the frantic kind, not loss, not absence, but the gentle kind. The selective erasing that your brain does every night while you sleep. One quietly fascinating fact: each night, your brain undergoes a process called synaptic pruning, an elegant system where unused neural connections are slowly pared away, like trimming back a tree. The idea is simple. The brain strengthens what's important and lets the rest fade. And it doesn't ask your opinion. You might assume that memory is something your brain preserves, but more often, it's something your brain curates, a constant negotiation between what's kept and what's allowed to vanish. Right now, as you sleep, your brain is deciding which experiences from your day are meaningful enough to hold, put onto which impressions, glances, voices will echo into tomorrow, and which will dissolve unnoticed into the background noise of your past. It's a quiet, unsentimental process, a clearing out. You may think you forgot your keys because you weren't paying attention, but your brain might have simply decided they weren't worth remembering. It had other stories to keep. This isn't carelessness. This is survival. Your brain only has so much space for long-term memory, and not everything makes the cut. But the question remains, what criteria does it use? What makes one moment important and another disposable? Researchers still wonder, is it emotional, intensity, novelty, repetition, a stray glance, or something subtler, something only the subconscious can weigh? No one fully knows, but sleep is when the weighing happens. There's something eerie about that a version of you deep beneath the surface is choosing what parts, of your life to forget. And you won't know what's gone until you reach for it and feel nothing there. Imagine an old bookshelf in a quiet corner of your mind. You once knew every title on those shelves, but now some spines are blank, some books are missing, some have rewritten themselves entirely, and yet you still feel like you. That's the miracle. The self remains even as the details shift, because forgetting isn't failure, it's function. You forget to make space. You forget to make room for sleep and growth and stillness. You forget so you can remember the things that matter more. Some memories are burned into you. Others are like footprints in snow. And every night, a soft wind blows over the surface, and some of those prints vanish. Let them. Not everything has to be held forever. The mind, in its wisdom, knows when to release, knows when to tuck things gently into the fog. You may never know what you've forgotten, but you'll feel the lightness it leaves behind. There's a word in Japanese, natsukashi. It roughly translates to a nostalgic longing, not just for a place or a person, but for a feeling that may never have truly existed. A soft ache for something just beyond reach. It's the echo of a memory that might have been lost, or maybe never real in the first place. You carry those to dot the not quite memories, the almosts, the could have beens, the things you forgot to remember. And maybe they're no less true. So tonight, don't resist the forgetting. Don't strain to hold what wants to slip. Let your mind prune what it must. Let it sweep the floor, fold the pages, turn out the light in a room you no longer need. That's not erasure, that's rest, and you've earned it. You breathe in again, longer, this time deeper. Your chest rises like a tide, then sinks slowly back into the sea of sleep. Your fingers twitch just once. Your eyes flutter beneath their lids. You've entered the stage of sleep where dreams begin to grow roots. And somewhere inside you, the slow science continues. Here, your brain starts its delicate sifting, not just of memories, but of meanings. It doesn't simply ask what happened today. It asks what mattered. It's as if each experience, a passing comment, a sound, a look, is placed on a set of cosmic scales. And what tips the balance is often surprising. You may have forgotten a conversation, but kept the tone of someone's voice. You may have forgotten the sky's color, but remembered the shape of a cloud. You may have let go of the facts, but held on to the feeling. And sometimes that's all you need. Your sleeping brain doesn't just preserve, it transforms. It replays moments, recombines them, blurs the edges, sharpens the center. It creates new associations that never existed when you were awake. This is called memory consolidation. But it's also a quiet kind of creativity. Dream logic, emotional algebra. Tonight, your brain might combine the scent of a flower from a childhood memory with the voice of someone you just met. It might rebuild a street you haven't walked in years, but populate it with faces from a film you watched last week. It might invent entire conversations with people you've lost, or people who never existed. And when you wake, the dream will feel real. Maybe even more real than some waking moments, because truth isn't always in the details. Sometimes truth lives in the residue, the shimmer that remains after the memory itself fades. You might remember the warmth of the sun burn your skin, but not the day or the hour or the place. You might recall the weight of someone's hand, but not their name. And still, it matters, because the body remembers. The subconscious remembers, even when your conscious mind lets go. And here's the beautiful part. That's by design. Your brain was never meant to be a vault. It was meant to be a garden. Memories are planted, pruned, and sometimes pulled up to make room for new life. Your dreams are the strange, flowering vines that grow when the gardener is asleep. Some bloom only once. Some return year after year. Some never open, but their roots still feed something deep below, right now. Your mind is tilling that soil. Quietly, carefully, it is making space. You may feel like you're floating, but your brain is doing more than you'll ever know. Let it. You don't need to hold on tonight. You don't need to review or regret or rehearse. You can release the pressure to remember everything. You can let your mind choose for you what to keep, what to let fade. Because the stories that shape you, they don't always live in the facts. Sometimes they live in the fog, in the half-remembered melody, in the warmth of a voice that no longer has a face, and that's enough. You are still whole, even with soft lies and lost memories and fading dreams. You are still you. You always have been. And now, deeper still, you enter the stage of sleep where your brain's patterns become stranger, and in a quiet way, more profound. The borders between real and imagined dissolve. Time slips loose from its leash. The past, present, and possible all gather at the same table, sharing stories under the dim light of your dreaming mind. This is REM sleep, a realm where the mind runs wild, yet somehow knows exactly where to go. Your eyes flicker behind closed lids like wind over water. Your heartbeat slows, then quickens, then slows again. Your breath becomes quiet, shallow, almost whispered dot, and deep within your skull. Your neurons are painting. They're lighting up like fireflies, flickering in patterns not unlike a symphony, or a language written in lightning. Each spark carries a question. What do you want to remember? What do you wish you'd forgotten? Who are you becoming? These questions aren't asked in words. They're asked in images, scenes, feelings. You may find yourself in a city you've never been, speaking a language you don't know, to a person who doesn't exist, and somehow every part of it feels right. There's no audience, no logic to obey, no consequences to fear, just your brain, free to imagine itself. Scientists believe that in REM sleep, the brain rehearses emotional responses, tries on different identities, and resolves tensions that waking life has no time to process. It is, in essence, a kind of night school for the soul, and you, the dreamer, are the student, the teacher, the lesson, and the chalkboard all at once. In your dreams, your memories are softened at the edges. Events become symbols, facts become feelings, and people become mirrors. You might find yourself speaking to someone long gone. You might forgive them or ask for their forgiveness. You might return to a childhood bedroom only to find it lit by a sun that never existed. You might sit beside a younger version of yourself and say nothing at all, just listen. And when you wake, you might not remember any of it, but your body will. The emotional circuits of the brain, the amygdala, the hippocampus, the prefrontal cortex, they light up during REM sleep as if watching a play unfold. And even if the details vanish, the feeling remains. Peace, resolution, release. So much of what we carry is never spoken out loud, but dreams speak in a different tongue, one made of metaphor and memory, echo and essence. They whisper truths we're not ready to say. They soothe the wounds we didn't know were open. They remind us of who we were and who we might become right now. As your breath moves like waves on a moonlit shore, your brain is stitching meaning into the soft fabric of the night. And you are the pattern it's weaving, not broken, not unfinished, just in motion, as it always has been. Let that be enough. Let it carry you. Somewhere behind your closed eyes, a door opens quietly. You don't see it, not quite, but you feel its weight shift. The slow exhale of air as a memory slips through. This is when the oldest stories emerge. Not from your past life, but from something older still. From the collective archive we all carry, from bones and blood, from instincts shaped by thousands of nights under ancient stars. You are not just dreaming your own life now. You are drifting through the echo of every life before you. A face you've never seen appears in your dream. They look at you as if they know you, and in the dream, you don't question it, because recognition doesn't always come from memory. Sometimes it comes from resonance. That is the soft lie your memory tells you while you sleep, that everything you dream is yours, when in truth it might belong to no one or everyone. You see a staircase that never existed, and your feet know every step. You hear a lullaby in a language that doesn't exist, and somehow you understand it. Your dreaming brain weaves truth and fiction so seamlessly that even your deepest fears begin to feel like old friends. They stop chasing you. They sit beside you. They listen. It's here, in this strange theater of midnight mind, that your brain performs one of its most mysterious tricks. It updates you, takes everything you learned today, every joy, every hurt, every half-formed thought, and stores it somewhere safer. Memories from the day are reviewed, sorted, filed away, or gently let go. Neuroscientists call this memory consolidation, but maybe it's just a kind of quiet housekeeping, a reset button pressed in velvet silence. You forget what you don't need. You keep what makes you whole, and in the process, you change a little. Tonight, your dreams may seem nonsensical, odd, unstable. You may wake and say, "That was strange," but inside your skull, nothing strange has happened at all. Only healing, only remembering what matters, and letting go of what does. This is how your brain protects you, how it repairs what can't be spoken, how it hums a lullaby in a frequency older than words, and so you float, suspended in this half-world between knowing and forgetting, between fact and feeling. You are not lost, you are becoming. Every night the tide goes out, and it brings something new to shore. Let it come, let it come, let it arrive. You are safe here, you are home. What year is it? Your eyes are closed, but your mind opens windows to years long past, or maybe years that never were. You drift through time as though it's not a river, but a fog. One you can step into anywhere, in any direction. In sleep, you don't follow clocks. Your brain, unshackled from sequence, lets memories melt into each other. One moment, you are 5 years old, and the sunlight feels like it did on a forgotten summer lawn. The next, you are looking at yourself from some impossible angle. Older, wiser, or perhaps not even you at all. You're not confused. Not really. Because during sleep, the rules loosen. Time becomes a canvas, and your mind, the slow painter, dab by dab, scene by scene, it colors your identity with moments both real and reimagined. You might think of memory as a filing cabinet, orderly, linear, labeled, but your dreaming brain doesn't care for order. It's more like a forest, dense, living, layered. And when you walk through it at night, you don't retrace your life, you remix it. This is why you can feel a childhood emotion triggered by a stranger's face. Why a long-lost friend might appear in your dreams, saying things they never said, offering closure they never gave. These aren't failures of memory. They're acts of mercy. Because deep down, your brain knows something essential. That truth is not always what you need. Sometimes it's the illusion that helps you heal. So it reshuffles scenes, adds dialogue, softens light. It stitches grief into something more bearable. It stretches joy into longer moments. It lets you revisit things you weren't ready to face before. Time in this world is not measured in seconds, but in meaning. And meaning is flexible, like the wind through leaves, like the shape of a cloud, like the face you almost remember from a dream you'll forget by morning. Tonight, you are not bound by age or chronology. You are fluid, a drifting observer of your own story, and all the versions of it that could have been. Even now, you're likely slipping through one of those moments. Maybe a fragment of your 8th birthday, or the smell of a home that never existed, or a song that never played. But you remember it, don't you? That's the soft lie memory tells you. And it's beautiful. Because sometimes the brain tells by stories not to preserve what happened, but to preserve you. So let it continue. Let it lead. You don't have to keep track of time. You don't have to understand the map. You are not lost. You are simply somewhere else. For a while, part someone else. And when you return, you'll be a little different. Not broken, not better, just rewritten softly, silently, lovingly. Sleep now. There's more to remember, more to forget, and all of it is exactly as it should be. There is a peculiar kindness in forgetting, not the harsh, jarring kind, not the gaps that feel like missing pages in your story, but the soft forgetting, the kind that smooths the rough edges of time. Your brain does this for you, on purpose, while you sleep. It's pruning, gently, like a gardener tending overgrown paths. It decides what you no longer need to carry, what burdens can be set down, what sharp details might dull with time, not out of cruelty, but out of care. You may think forgetting is failure, but in truth, forgetting is a form of healing. Think of a moment that once haunted you. Do you remember how vividly it used to sting? No, perhaps it's softer, blunted, as if your mind wrapped it in velvet and tucked it into a drawer. This is no accident. During sleep, your brain reprocesses experience. It shifts emotional weight, files memories in new places, and you edits them. It is not erasing the truth, but choosing what truths to emphasize. This is the mercy of night. While the world sleeps in silence, your brain reweaves your story with gentler threads, and in doing so, it helps you survive. Without this forgetting, you would remember too much. Every wound fresh, every regret immediate. You couldn't live like that. No one could dot. So the brain protects you by obscuring some things, by letting others dissolve into haze. That's why you sometimes wake up remembering a dream more clearly than the day before it. That's why childhood becomes a mist of impressions rather than a chain of clear events. It's not that you've lost your past. It's that your mind has refined it. Let go of the urge to grasp every detail. There's no need to remember it all. Memory is not a mirror. It is a mosaic. And sleep is when the pieces are rearranged. Some tiles will be tucked behind others. Some colors brightened. Some gaps left blank. For the mind to fill in with dreams. You don't need every piece to feel whole, that the brain remembers what matters and lets go of what doesn't. Sometimes you won't even realize what's been left behind until you search for it and find only quiet. But that's okay, because silence, too, is a part of memory, an intentional space, a breath. Tonight you are drifting through that breath, that pause, that gentle blur between what was and what will be. And as you sleep, you are being edited lovingly by a mind that knows more than you do. You are not broken for forgetting. You are human. And in the forgetting, you are being protected, preserved, prepared for tomorrow. So rest easy. You don't need to remember everything. You only need to feel safe. And you are. Somewhere beneath the hush of your thoughts, your memories settle like snow, not gone, just still. You are deeper into sleep now, in that mysterious state where your brain begins to speak in its own language, not words, but sensations. You dream not just in images, but in symbols, the hallway that never ends. The friend with the face of someone else. The house that feels like home, though you've never seen it. This is memory. Reassembled top science calls it dream synthesis. Your brain taking pieces of your day, your past, your hopes, but turning them into stories to help you feel something new. It is the most personal kind of fiction. And even if you don't remember it, even if it dissolves by morning light, it has already changed you, because what you dream still matters. Even if you forget, your brain keeps the meaning, even when it releases the form. While you sleep, the amygdala, or emotional command center, lights up like a storm. It surges with activity, reacting to dreamscapes as if they were real. Fear, longing, joy, peace, all of these pass through you like weather. And the hippocampus, your memory librarian, it watches. It decides which storms are worth recording, and which will simply pass through, cooling the heat of the day before. This is not randomness. This is alchemy. In sleep, you are emotionally recalibrated. Wounds from the waking world are processed without your permission, so that when you rise, you are perhaps just a little bit lighter. And if you've ever woken up from a dream, feeling like a truth had been whispered to you in code, you're not wrong. Your subconscious has its own language. One that doesn't rely on facts, but on feelings. One that doesn't care for time, but cares deeply for meaning. Sometimes your dreams will lie, but only to tell you a deeper truth, that you are still healing, that you are still hoping, that even in your rest, your mind is working on your behalf. You are the story your brain tells itself when it is safe. You are the dream it dreams again and again to remember who you are becoming. So float in this in-between, this gentle limbo. No need to chase clarity. No need to hold anything tight. Let the snow of memory fall where it will. Let the symbols rise and fade. Let the science work its quiet magic. Tonight, the world outside is distant. What matters is happening within. You are not just resting. You are being remade. And even if you don't recall the shape of the dream, your body will remember how it felt. That is enough. Somewhere beyond words, beneath awareness, you are walking through a forest of your own mind. Not a real forest, but a neural landscape, alive with firing synapses, glowing like distant stars in the dark dot. It's quiet here, but also electric. Your brain, at this very moment, is weaving, patching memories together, trimming the unneeded, reinforcing the valuable. It is editing your life so that you can survive it better. Did you know that sleep is the only time your brain actively washes itself? There is no metaphor here, just strange, beautiful fact. While you sleep, your brain's lymphatic system flushes out toxins with waves of cerebrospinal fluid, rinsing between the cells like a tide dot. It is literal cleansing, a nightly bath for your consciousness. And as this happens, the dreams continue, flickering against the screen of your closed eyes, whispering to the soul you forget you have. Each dream is a message, not always in language, but in resonance. You dream about that moment from years ago, not because it matters now, but because your brain is freeing you from its weight. Or maybe it's reminding you, gently, of something you promised yourself and forgot. A joy, a sadness, a truth. Dreams are memory's softer cousin. They don't shout, they murmur. And sometimes they lie, but not to deceive. They lie the way myths do, the way poetry does, to illuminate something larger. That's why the faces shift, why the places blur, why you wake with a feeling, but no words to pin it down. Because feelings come first in this place. Language arrives much later. You are deep now, in REM sleep, the realm where the body goes still and the mind grows vivid. Your muscles are paralyzed for your safety, but your imagination is free, and in this freedom, you begin to heal. Psychologists call it emotional memory consolidation. You might call it something else, a dream that lingered, a nightmare that faded, a strange peace that came from nowhere. Whatever the name, the truth is the same. While you sleep, your brain makes peace with what it could not solve by daylight. It reshapes your story without needing your permission. It forgives you, even when you can't. And if tomorrow you wake up with a sudden clarity, an answer to a question you never asked, know that it came from here. This forest, this silence, this brilliant hidden work. You are not broken. You are in progress. And tonight, as your memories are softened and your heart is rewired, you are becoming something new, not because of anything you did, but because of everything your brain does when you finally let go. So rest, let it all unfold. Without your interference, you are not missing anything. You are being restored. Outside, the world keeps spinning. The moon drifts westward. The distant hum of cars, the rustle of leaves, the quiet pulse of distant lives, they continue. But in here, you are elsewhere. You are in a temple without walls, built by billions, of neurons, where time forgets how to measure itself. Here, the past and future braid together like strands of silver in a slow river. You dream. Now, not just of events, but of possibilities, of what might have been and what could still become. And your brain, quietly brilliant, begins a process scientists still don't fully understand. It simulates futures, not one, but many. Your sleeping mind runs soft rehearsals, tries on emotional costumes, prepares you, not with conscious thought, but with felt experience. Maybe you wake tomorrow just a little more ready to forgive, or to ask for something you've been afraid to need. Maybe you step into a moment of tension, and for no clear reason, you handle it with grace. That readiness, that calm under pressure. It began here, in the night, in dreams. And these simulations, these silent rehearsals, are guided by your values, the deep ones you don't name out loud. Because the sleeping brain is honest. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't pretend. It holds a mirror up, not to what you show the world, but to what you truly carry. It shows you the unfinished chapters, the unsaid goodbyes, the lingering fears still stitched into your muscles. And then, softly, it tries to help. That strange dream where your childhood home was flooded, your brain reprocessing security, loss, change. That recurring image of doors you can't open, an unresolved goal, or perhaps the echo of something you almost did. You don't need to decode these dreams tonight. You don't even need to remember them, because the work is being done, whether you're aware of it or not. And that's the miracle, isn't it? That in sleep you can let go of effort and still, somehow, grow. You do not have to try to heal. You only have to rest. Let the simulations play out. Let the memories reorganize. Let the feelings move through you as gently as wind through long grass. Because rest is not the absence of doing. It is a different kind of doing, a deeper one. And the more fully you surrender, the more completely you renew. So don't be afraid of forgetting. Some memories are softened on purpose. Don't fear the dreams that don't make sense. They are coded messages from the most ancient parts of you. Trust them or don't. They'll still do their work. Either way, the body sleeps, the mind dreams, and you become just a little more whole. And now you drift beyond thought, beyond memory, beyond story. You are not trying anymore, not to understand, not to remember, not even to sleep, because you are already there. And this quiet place, where your breath deepens and your limbs grow heavy with trust, is where the real transformation happens. No more images flicker across your mind. No more sentences echo. Even your inner voice, the narrator, the planner, the critic, has gone quiet. There's no audience here. Number performance. Just the soft hum of being. Just you, without needing to be anyone. And slowly, silently, your cells repair themselves. Your brain resets chemical levels with the precision of 1,000 tiny alchemists. Neurons prune and rewire. Inflammation subsides. Your immune system recalibrates. And your heart, steady, gentle, finds a rhythm that sings of safety. Every part of you, from your fingertips to the deep folds of your cortex, surrenders to this sacred ritual of rest. And it's okay that you didn't finish the thought, that the memory was blurry, that you drifted off halfway through a sentence. That's not a mistake. That's the point. Because sleep is not the opposite of waking. It's not a shutdown. It's not an absence. It is a return, a reconnection to be self beneath the surface. The self that watches clouds from under closed eyelids. The self that swims in the deep sea of dreams. The self that always knew how to rest, long before you learned how to worry. And when you rise, not now, not binned, but when your body is ready, you will bring something back with you. Not a fact, not a sentence, but a feeling, a softness around the edges of fear, a looseness in the jaw, a quiet knowing that you can begin again. Because this is not the end of a story. It is the continuation of your becoming. And though you'll forget this moment, as dreams always fade with the sun, your body will remember that you gave it this gift, a night of rest, a surrender without conditions, a journey into the soft lies that memory tells so that healing can begin. Good night. You've already done enough. Sleep well. We'll see you in the morning.